Happy Monday, everyone. Oh my God, I almost was like, Happy New Year. Happy Monday,
Happy
everyone.
birthday.
Happy Beltane. I was going to talk about that too. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, here we go. So, welcome everybody to the Nourish Your Soul show. I am Sevante, Lainey Sevante Wilkin, and I'm here with the amazing Cheryle Freedman, one of my closest, one of the ones that I believe walks on water to me in my heart and has been part of this world and the ever evolving world. We've had lots of worlds and reiterations thus
Mm.
far, but here we are today talking about from trauma to triumph, and there's so much in between. But for those of you who don't know the amazing Cheryle Freedman, why don't you introduce yourself and share a little bit? It's funny here we're talking about offline that we don't necessarily put ourselves into saying we're this or we're that because we're all things and do
Mhm.
so many things, but maybe share what you would like to share about who you are and what you do and what matters most, I suppose.
Well, thank you for the kind words.
I
I
don't
am
know.
I'm still one of those people that, and I know it's from all that inner child work I probably still have to do, but it's you know, I have trouble taking a compliment. Every time somebody would say, "Oh, I really like that dress," I go, "Oh, it was so cheap. I got it at BJ's." It always.
You're like, I think I was supposed to just say thank you.
Right, and I'm working on that. But yeah, it's funny because we were just talking about this about being pigeonholed into one thing or another, and it hit me last night because my husband was talking to somebody from his B club, and the woman asked, "Was I still in the Holistic Chamber of Commerce?" And then she must have asked him exactly what it was I did, and he said, "Well, she does past life regression." And I said, "Stop telling people I do past life regression, because as with anyone, it kept evolving. I started with plain hypnosis, then it evolved into past life regression, and then it evolved into energy healing and all these other things." So, yeah,
Theta healing, right? You threw some
theta
theta healing in
healing,
there.
right? Exactly. But if you stop and think about it, all those things are connected. They're all connected, but we have a problem doing what we call our 30-second elevator pitch that is about, here's what I do. So yeah, I think sometimes we've gone along our journey and we learn to do so much, and we know it's all connected, but we have to try and help other people understand how all of the stuff we do is connected. It's not just, oh, I like this, I'll go do it. Oh, I like that, I'll go do it. It's all, for me, it's all connected. And I think yours is too.
Everything I do is building upon each other from
Mhm.
35 years ago, studying nutrition and food science, not even know where that would take me to working for, high profile chef in Hollywood. You just never know
Mhm.
throughout the years the things that will connect in. And I have to say that it's hard to say what I do. I mean, the list is long, and there's, when we list all of our certifications, at the end of the day, it's all energy, and we're healers, and all of us have the ability to do it. Some spend more time in the field accessing it and doing it more, but we're here, and we're here to nourish people, and we're here to nourish ourselves and learn and grow. And part of that is learning to see what limits us.
Mhm.
And that's kind of really the talk of the day, is the subject of from trauma to triumph, because we were talking off air about how trauma can mean so many things to so many people,
Mhm.
and what PTSD is and what trauma is and what it feels like to have it and not even know that it's limiting you by having it kind of stuffed inside or in the tissues or in the emotional field in the body. But at the end of the day, it exists, and it can exist as much as having to change jobs. That could be very traumatic to, have had suffered a loss. The range is so big, and who's to say what is considered to be the level that tips the scales inside of you. But if things
Mhm.
are feeling stacked, it's time to start looking at those. And that's what you and I are so good at with our clients, right? Is finding what those things that have been hidden and bringing them to the surface and out for healing.
Mhm. You know, it's just as you were talking, I'm thinking it's maybe it's wording, but people I found this when I ran my first Facebook group. It was called Talking to Anxiety. And I realized soon after I started that group that I should not have used the word anxiety, because anxiety means different things to different people. To me, because I was a therapist, you know, I didn't look at it as seriously as some people do. I knew that anxiety, at least a little anxiety, can be a good thing because it protects you. It helps keep you safe. It's the kind of thing that if you were out in the jungle and you saw a lion, a little anxiety might get you to run away and get the heck out of there so the lion doesn't have you for lunch, you know, but you,
Yeah.
you know, you could be his lunch, but and I guess that's all the circle of life too, but that's a whole other thing. Um but a lot of the people in the group were thinking that anxiety was like people who take medication and anxiety attacks and panic attacks, and it was this big thing to them. So we were talking about trauma. The word trauma might even seem to people like, oh, that's a big thing. I didn't have trauma. Look at what happened to this other person. That's a trauma. Sometimes you don't think that things that you're equating as being small things really are a trauma. It's a trauma if it causes you discomfort and if you keep thinking about it and if it instills some kind of beliefs in you that you keep reacting over. Doesn't have
Mm.
to be a panic attack.
Well, when you realize that things trigger you and you don't know where it's coming from, that's a good sign that there's something inside subconsciously, like causing
Mhm,
that trigger, trying to get your attention, knocking on the door and letting you know that there's something here. Why are you so triggered by the color red? Or why are you so triggered by when someone says a certain word? Sometimes we don't even know where those traumas are coming from, and that's, I'm sure, with the work that you do. Hey, Tony, is for them to go back, because sometimes it's not even in this lifetime. I know in the work that I do, I catch things
mhm.
that are like, I worked with a client last week, 5th generations back. That's where it was coming from.
Yeah.
And I could just feel it. I kept feeling female, and I went all the way up the lineage until we landed on it. And sure enough, taking on the traumas of that DNA that stays in the tissues, people don't even realize. It's like sort of wow, woo woo out there thinking that
Mhm.
that can be there, but it's there, right? You and I know it because we
Yep.
see it on the everyday, but some people don't even realize they're taking on things that aren't even their own,
Right.
those traumas.
Well, just, to expand on what you just said, that's really interesting because I think people do think it's woo woo when we're saying it's back several generations because they don't understand how it could possibly be in your DNA. But a
Yeah.
simple way to show people what that is like, let's just go back as far as, like, say, cavemen that originally were hunter gatherers. And maybe when they were out and about trying to, maybe the woman was out and she was trying to gather all these things to help build a fire for dinner or whatever. They soon learned the things that they had to be very leery of, like snakes or creatures that could kill them, and they started building up that anxiety. And some of the studies they've done, they're almost thinking, especially with snakes, that it could very well be when we have people now that'll say, I'm so deathly afraid of snakes, and a snake never did anything to me. They did do studies with rhesus monkeys a while back. They took little monkeys who had never ever seen a snake before. And when they showed it a snake, the baby monkey just got hysterical and afraid. So
Wow.
that kind of shows you then that is coming through generations. That is in your DNA.
Wow, that is pretty profound. I have to almost chuckle because uh, I've done a couple past life regressions with Cheryl, but I did do
Mhm.
one and I did go back to the caveman
Yeah.
period and saw my life as a cave woman. Um, I was a woman in that. And in any case, it's funny that you're mentioning it because now I'm kind of going back and thinking about that. So here we're talking about our class on Saturday, which is, uh, we call it conquering your cravings, and we talk about things because, not everything is food. When we talk about food, even intuitive food therapy, food not isn't necessarily always literal in the context
Mhm.
of things. Sure, we work with food in the deck, we work with food in consciousness and what to eat according to elements and chakras, but when you think of intuitive food therapy, you can actually think of food as in how are we nourishing ourselves on so many levels? How are
Mm.
we
Yeah.
feeding the soul? How are we feeding our thoughts? Food comes in many different formats.
Yeah.
And I think people get a little thinking it's always just about feeding the physical. The body temple is in many
Mhm.
facets. So here, when we say conquering your cravings, you and I talked about that it's not just food. It could be food, sex, alcohol, mindset,
Mhm.
habits, whatever. We're talking about why are we even craving things? That's
And,
really,
maybe also, and this we were discussing a lot too. We met last week and we were talking about this, but the wording that we're using, I know, and I fell into that trap myself. We were working on this presentation for the class on Saturday, and the word cravings, people connect that to food. That particular word, cravings, they connect more to food than to other things. But it could be, if you think of all the other words, it could be desires, and that has a whole different connotation than craving, because I think we do consider cravings to be, oh, I really want that chocolate,
it could
you
be
know?
conquering your addictions, conquering your obsessions, conquering
Mhm.
your vices,
Yes.
conquering your, um, you know, thoughts. It's really getting over them. And we do it through the use of going through and seeing
Mhm.
what's in there,
And
right?
you just hit on the word thoughts, because thoughts are what drive everything. They're what promote your behaviors to work on autopilot, basically. And that's
Mhm.
why with the theta healing, we try to get down to what that bottom deepest belief really is. Try and keep going down further and further until you find what the real reason is that you're having this issue, so we can clear that and then instill something better. So it's those beliefs, those deep seated beliefs, that are driving everything that we do.
I love that. Oh, the thought just went out of my head, but you just said something that touched on something I was going to respond to. So it's
I'm
in
sorry.
and it's gone. But it was really it was something about the thoughts. Oh, it was just kind of a funny thing, but how our thoughts drive everything, as you said. It's that you ate badly on Thursday, and
Yes.
so you give yourself the mindset, all right, I've already blown it. I'll start my diet on Monday.
You're right. I have that in the
I do it all the time.
presentation, so we're thinking the same way. Yeah. People do have that mindset. Well, I already blew it, so I might as well enjoy myself and go right ahead. But that can be the same thing with other behaviors. Maybe that's what we're hoping to get people to recognize, that food might not be the only problem. Food might not even be the problem. Food might be what you're using to try and solve the problem that you really have.
Yeah. So that's what the discussion is. If you haven't taken this class, this is all food for thought and food for fodder because uh, it is well beyond the dinner plate, that's for sure. And then let's just talk about theta healing for a little bit because I know Tony's a theta healer, and
Mhm.
we've all been trained in this wonderful modality. Viana Steibel created Theta Healing some years back. She's got a global community of Theta healers.
Mhm.
I think the technique is great. It is a technique per se, but I also know that our intuition can go in and look at things. There's just maybe kind of a structured format on how to do it. I think it's done really intelligently. I think that's why we've all been attracted to it. And I find it very successful using that with a variety of other things I do in my healings with my
Mhm.
clients. I think that is a great doorway to go in and dig dig in
Yeah,
and dig in and like
definitely.
be the deep sea. I always say like go into the crevasses of the Mount Everest and pull them up and get them out. The
Yeah.
thoughts, bad feelings, the whatever.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because, that's, and we had also discussed this, but it's true that theta healing is an intuitive process. It's not only are we being intuitive when we're being the healer, helping to be the healer or the conduit to, creator that's actually doing the healing, except that creator is you, each person. So that's that connection. So basically, you're healing yourself. You just need to believe in it. But you do a whole bunch of things, Lainey, and you have developed, you've been on this path, for a very long time. You're
Yeah.
fourth generation. Other people have this ability to be intuitive, but they might not learn to tap into their intuition the same way you did. They
Mm.
might need to take some other kind of, I hate to call them all therapies, modalities, whatever. Like,
Trainings, I think.
right, for there's so many different things that can help you learn how to tap into your own intuition, but they're different for each person. So while theta healing for me was perfect because I was already doing past life regression, and to me, I heard Patty talk one time at a HCC meeting, and I was like, you know what? It just clicked. This
Wow.
is connected.
Yeah.
But some people do it with the cards.
A
Some
lot of people
people
do with the cards.
Some
Yeah.
people do it with meditation. It's like so many different things. So no one should really pigeonhole themselves into um, thinking there's only one way to do it. And just a word of caution: anybody that you hook up with to do a course, a program, whatever, be aware that if anybody tries to tell you that the only way you can do it is the way they are telling you, take a step back and think about that because there is not only one way.
Cheryl, as you were talking just now, look at the card I pulled.
Oh, wow. Yep. Take a pause. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Take a pause. And I think that, there's a lot of people out there teaching a lot of amazing things, and there's it can get really crowded and confusing. And it's just I always say sometimes when there's a lot to decide and a lot of people and a lot of choices,
Hmm.
is to go and take the pause, sit down and say, how may I learn best? Like, spirit, what is best for my soul? What is the best? And some people, they have their communities, they have their connections, and it's good to take a million things. But I know people who are the perennial students. That's all they do is get certified all day long. That's all they do is take
Hmm.
classes. But and at some point, what are you doing with the work? Are you going to, use
Yeah.
that and or is it is just, I mean, I just see like a lot of that going on. I would love to see mass all that wisdom and then use it for humanity, really share the
Yeah.
gift, share the wealth
Definitely.
of
And I
knowledge.
think, you know, just because Lainey has certifications in certain things, I have certifications in certain things, that doesn't mean we know everything. And
Oh.
if the one thing I will tell people to do is if you take a course and there's something about that course, like you really like it, whatever it is, Theta Healing, hypnosis, whatever it is. You take that course, but some of the stuff that you're learning in the course just doesn't feel right in your gut. That gut, your intuition. And it's okay to say, okay, I do believe all this stuff that I'm being taught could help me, but why? You have to keep asking yourself, why is that one part not sitting right with me?
Mm.
And that's your intuition.
Well,
Then you know
you
you got it.
oh, for sure. And you you don't know this, but in level 2, which is the new course with
Mhm.
using the new deck, it's a very different course because people have seen that first deck out for a few years, and a lot of
Mhm.
people took that first level and they learned how to go deeper with the cards by looking at the picture and learning. We always I always like to say you can look at the card 5 ways. You can look at it from looking at the food, looking at the picture, looking at the colors, looking at the chakras, looking at the elements, putting it all together. But in this new course, you take everything that you've learned that I could embody and in all the teachings that we have, and it's not even all the teaching,
Mhm.
it's a smidge because there's so many new teachings that's hence will be taught in these future courses. But and then they learn to us take them and apply them to real life matters. And what is it? Cheryl comes in, she's not feeling well, she's really sad. How are you going to, like cases, we give them
Right.
cases and
Right.
assessment in client situations, because that's very different than just here's 9 spreads. How are you going to do that? And you may come from past life regression, and she may come from tapping, and she may come from Reiki, and she may come from oils, and I may come from Theta, whatever it is. It's like, how are you going to open up the intuition and decide
Mhm.
how this person needs help?
It's interesting you said about the oils too. I know Denise does oils and she's like master of the oils there.
She is.
That should be her new title. Um,
Master of oils.
she
We're teaching
even
a class next.
yes,
Oh, you're
and
not going to be
she,
here.
I'll be gone.
Oh,
Um,
cooking class. Yeah.
yeah, I'll be in Canada. Um, no, what was I gonna say? I
Oh
was
my God.
something else.
Sorry.
Oh no,
You
I
were
was
saying
gonna
the oil.
say Terracina. They when you did the magnificence thing there with her, the
Infinite
first
magnificence.
the
Yeah.
first one, they actually, and I had bought the oils. Of course, now I can't use them around my cat because she's allergic. But she was even connecting the blends of the oils with certain cards.
Oh, yeah.
And that when you did the readings, you could like use whatever the oils were with that. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is how you read. I think why I like the oracle cards better is because, well, for me, I always had trouble keeping track of what the tarot cards meant.
Yeah, there's a lot of
But,
them.
but the oracle cards, including the Food Healing Oracle deck, I know when I read for people, I can pull the same cards for two different people, but they do not mean the same thing. And that's the intuition piece, that when you pull that card for somebody, you understand how it's connected to what they were asking you. Is that I know you wouldn't get the
100%.
same reading to every
100%.
people that every person that comes to you, it's going to depend on that person and not just on the question, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who ask exactly the same question. Where's my business going to be in 3 months or whatever? But that card for that particular person might mean something different. You're not going to say the same thing every time you see that one card.
No, 100%. And plus, people come with their own stuff, their own prior traumas, their own
Mhm.
getting back to traumas, like going back
Right.
to like what they come through. And then I
Mhm.
always say that as a reader, you may come with traumas and somebody comes to you with that trauma. Like very often, people come to you with things that I think spirit brings you because you've walked that. I've dealt with suicide in my past. I've had a lot of suicide
Mhm.
survivors come to me, or have lost a partner. Like I've seen, like, okay, spirit must know I knew that one. And so, but it's interesting. But as a reader, you have to kind of neutralize
Mm-hmm.
that ability to not bring in your old stuff. And that's why even everybody, healers, need to always be doing their work.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes people are like, "Oh, well, I'm already so evolved. I don't need to take classes." Let me, yeah, you do. I'll never stop taking classes, particularly classes like this that are going in and seeing, okay, there's more to dig. There's always more to dig out and get out and
Right.
look at. 100%. We're here on this planet. There will always be something to learn or heal or evolve or up level to, I
Right.
think.
And if you take, the knowledge that, and this is more from the past life regression piece, but if we consider that we came here at this time, at this very moment, to navigate a bunch of things along our path that we needed to learn from. So, in that respect, traumas are not necessarily a bad thing. When you're going through it, whatever it is, it seems awful. But there comes a point when you get past it and you can look back in hindsight and say, you know what? My having had that trauma, and I have done this, my having had this specific trauma in my childhood gave me the knowledge to be able to then go and help little children with their trauma of the same sort, because I had experienced that and I understood it better at that point. So it's our path. We're learning, learning, learning. And you have a lot of things that you do and more keep coming to you. You get downloads all the time.
I do.
Um, I think that people will recognize too when they get far enough along their path, that's what's going to happen to them too. They're going to be sitting there watching TV and they're like, oh, this
Right?
is really
Oh,
good to help
are you
people.
kidding? I was just I just was say recently that happened to me. I was just rinsing off some vegetables in the sink. I'm like, okay, there it is. And
Yeah.
the thing is, some people can have a job, work at it for 20 years. That's their path. That's just never been my path because spirit is always moving me. It feels like every
Mhm.
few years into my next evolvement. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. Change isn't always easy, but I do know that there's always a transition, there's always a learning, there's always a falling away, and there's always a rebirth and the renewal. And I do believe that that's just my path, and there's probably others, and everyone has their own. And I think there's so much learning in it. And when you said that just now, that traumas can bring, I think, unlocking a new library of wisdom. There's no
Mhm.
question. I can always say, and I look forward to that on the class, is what is the gift in this? You can ask you, what is
Yes.
the gift in this? What am I learning? I may not know it now, but spirit, show me the other side to this. And
Mhm.
when you were talking about when you were just talking, I pulled the card health. And to me, I look at this, a single solitary mint of like, this is about you, your health, your mental health, the
Yep.
opening up your heart, the heart chakra. So that's what we want to do. If you want to come join us, and we're going to just probably
Mhm.
end a little early here, on Saturday. It's this Saturday, and we're going to spend a couple hours together, maybe a few hours together, really looking at what is it that this group needs, including Cheryle and I,
Mhm.
to heal emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. What's there for us to explore? What's open for us to learn and uncover and take us to our next level? Because I know, there's some people on the call, Janelle and Tony, myself included, others who absolutely know we're on the beginning of something new, like a
Mhm.
new change. And I don't know if it's a new dawning. And for you, Cheryle, maybe there's change. Change is not running amok, but change to me feels like it's very present. And let's get on the
Mhm.
other side of that and clear and get everything out of the way that will get us to that place with clarity and conviction.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's one thing that we will help people through when we do the class this time, is more trying to figure out what is that thing that you're supposed to be learning right now from whatever it is that's going on. And, if you start actively doing that, you don't have to wait till 20 years from now to look back and say, oh, now I get it. Now I know. Let's find some ways to help you figure that out now, what the real issue is, so that you know how it's helping you, because they're all helping you. Everything is.
Perfect. Now, for those of you who are on our newsletter, uh, you hopefully opened up your inbox today because there's a special for the month of May. We offered a discount. We talked
Mhm.
about obviously these coming up classes, but this is May is like so much. First off, we did talk. Well, let's get back to what May 1st is. We'll get to that and then we'll end the show. But this is Mother's Day. We've got graduations, probably some birthdays. There's a lot happening in May. So there's some special offers. Go check your email for our upcoming classes, and you may want to stock up on some things if there's a discount there. But yeah, make the most out of May. And then do you want to just talk about what today is? Because I did put a post out to everyone. I don't know if everyone follows Gaelic festivals and practices, but you said it in the beginning.
It's Beltane.
Yeah.
It's actually Beltane. And it is fun if you live somewhere that you can be part of one of the Beltane ceremonies where they actually, it's warm enough. They actually can put up a maypole and can dance around the maypole and everything. But really what Beltane is, it's almost exactly halfway in between the spring solstice and the summer solstice.
Yeah.
So, things are starting to grow. Things are, and it's a time of fertility. Not necessarily meaning you're going to have a baby, but
Right.
fertility, it's a time of fertility for new ideas and creating. So, this is a
It's
real
a time
positive
of
day.
It's like our kale card,
Mhm.
fertility. But it
Yes.
is. But it is when you also think of fertility too. For me, the way I interpret Beltane also is it is definitely about male and female energies, but
Mhm.
it is about clearing the way, starting new, and also
Yes.
how are you going to balance the divine masculine feminine? You
Yes.
know, how are you going to receive? What are you going to do? What are you going to put out in
Mhm.
the world? What are you going to get back? And it's really a good time to kind of like experience that when you think about female and male energies.
Yes.
And so it's a kind of a cool day. And yes, there's burning woods and pyres, and some people building altars if you're in our altar
Drinking
shrine.
mead.
Yeah, there you
All
go.
sorts of fun things like that.
In our altar shrines and sacred spaces, we put a little thing up. But yeah, if someone creates an altar around this fertility,
Mhm.
regrowth. But here we talked about just before that, there's a feeling of change. This is the change. There is a
Yeah.
renewal and there's a
Mhm.
letting go. And I definitely feel like there's a transition going on. And all of it's great. And no one can judge anybody else because everyone's on their own journey and we don't know what anyone's path is or karma. So we just accept.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All
Change
right.
is happening, that's for sure.
All right. So thanks for being here tonight. I'm glad thanks for all of you who came, who will watch this later. If you want to join us this Saturday, hop on to our website, foodhealingdeck.com. The registration's there. And we will be seeing you. And whoever's supposed to be there, I know that we are all going to be floating, floating freely afterwards, lightening our load and seeing things with clear eyes, with no question
Yeah.
on all levels. Yeah,
Yes. Release those old beliefs and let's instill some brand new ones.
there you go. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. Have a blessed night. See you soon. Take care.
Bye.